All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the 3:30 session called Wouldn't It Be Great If You Could Completely Refresh a Mobile Device in a Single Tap, Part 2. I'd like to invite Adam, Derrick, and Aaron Maxim up on the stage. There will be time for questions most likely afterwards, so if something kind of piques your interest, just remember and we'll come through afterwards.
Cool. Thanks, Jordan.
Good luck, guys.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jamf Nation. Happy Tuesday. Everybody still buzzing from that keynote? Awesome. State of Union, good time? Yeah? Awesome. Cool. Welcome to our session. So wouldn't it be great if you could refresh a mobile device in a single tap, part 2? How many people attended our session last year? Good amount of people. Cool. How many people are utilizing Return to Service, the app, in their environment today? Couple hands? Okay, cool. So this session is going to focus on not only Return to Service, but the Return to Service app that Aaron and I built and we launched, 2 years ago now? So awesome. So we're about to show you how, spoiler alert, on how you can completely refresh a mobile device in a single tap and even other ways around it. So just a little plug for something really cool we're doing this year, the lounge. It's in room 110 on level 3, so the registration level. It's down a hallway. We have a little easel out there with a sign, but we're doing the lounge again tomorrow and Thursday from 11:30 to 12:15. If you would like to experience Return to Service for yourself, hands-on, or if you just want to nerd out with Aaron and myself, come by the lounge. If you're not there at 11:30, that's fine. Runs until 12:15. It's lunchtime. If we need to run a little bit later, that's fine as well. But if you want to go ahead and get hands-on and get some pro tips and things like that right before lunch, it's the perfect combo, and we'd love to see you there. So my name is Adam Derrick. I'm a solutions engineer at Jamf. I focus on healthcare and identity. And I'm joined here by my fantastic colleague, Aaron Maxim.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, I'm part of the consulting engineering team at Jamf. We help extend the product to fit some customer needs. And RTS app, a Return to Service app, is one of those outcomes. I specialize in mobile apps, pretty much. So glad to be here in front of you. Excited about this.
If you're using any of Jamf's mobile apps like Jamf Setup, Jamf Reset, Jamf Mobile Assist, this guy built them. Awesome. So our agenda for this afternoon, we're going to talk about why we should be utilizing Return to Service in our environment. We're going to talk through the Return to Service process. For those of you who attended our session last year, we're going to discuss all the exciting new features that came from customers like you, resources that are available for you, and then what's next and what the future of Return to Service looks like. So why should we utilize Return to Service? Many reasons why. I used to work in higher education. I used to work in healthcare. And every Sunday, I'd work the Sunday through Wednesday shift. So every Sunday I would come in and I'd have a pile of iPads on my desk. And I would have to hook them up to Configurator and I would have to wipe them. And it was horrible. Now this is going back to 2014, 2015. Back then I was submitting feedback to Apple. I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we just had a button that could do this? And come 2023, with iOS 17, yeah, it feels like this has been around for much more than 2 years. But with iOS 17, when we were in Austin, Texas, we launched the Return to Service app. So it helps to eliminate choosing your language, your country, accessibility options, getting the device connected up to a network, which can really be a challenge sometimes, as well as the remote management screen. It also saves a lot of money. All those taps, they take time away from you, from other staffers in your environment, from your frontline employees. So this app, and as you'll see here, it really helps to save a lot of time. Cool. Other things that Return to Service helps with, We could really streamline device management completely across your organization. So again, whether you're handling employee turnover, the athletics department at the university that I used to work at, we went through people every week. We had like 10 new people in athletics. The hospital that I used to work at, every week we had 10 new hospice and home care people joining. So giving somebody outside of IT the capability to reset and re-provision that device without contacting IT, without giving them access to Jamf Pro, that's like a win-win situation. So RTS just eliminates all those tedious steps. Our wireless networks, they configure automatically, and those device refreshes just take moments. Literally from the time that you initiate a return to service to the time that you're at the home screen, it's about 3.5, 4 minutes. Now it depends on like the generation, iPad or iPhone or Apple TV or Vision Pro that you have, but on a modern device, I always like to say, just go grab a cup of coffee, come back, and you're good to go. So those device refreshes, they just take moments, and really that entire setup process, all those taps are gone, and we don't have any errors, people connecting to the wrong wireless network. So with return to service, the process of resetting and re-enrolling iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, as well as Vision Pro, it becomes fully automated and a lot faster. So when Jamf sends the command to erase a managed device, it could actually provide the Wi-Fi details and define essentially the M solution, in this case Jamf Pro. It'll say, hey, I want you to go ahead and connect to JNUC 2025. And the user will not have to type in anything, they will not have to touch. It'll all be defined in a config profile, which we'll talk about here in just a few moments. So you might be wondering, like, what is the need for an end user app for return to service? So surprisingly enough, what was it, Jamf Pro 11.20? Or something around there where they introduced, we'll go with Jamf Pro 11.20. They introduced return to service when you initiate a device wipe in the device record. 2 years after we built the return to service app. Who in here is wiping devices in Jamf? Raise your hands. Yeah, almost everybody in the room. So, so anybody using the Jamf Reset app in their environment? Yeah, we got people using the Jamf Reset app. So the Jamf Reset app has been around since 2017. Aaron developed that app as well. The Reset app, what it does is it will send an API call to go ahead and wipe a device. However, we still have to go and choose our language, our country, accessibility options, get it connected to the network, and accept remote management. So this streamlines that entire experience, and it eliminates a lot of those frustrations. We get instant responses without opening tickets. We don't have to contact IT. We don't have to give anybody access to Jamf Pro. And since the app automatically recognizes the device, we don't have to hunt down serial numbers or system information. It's just quick and efficient support. So you might be wondering, like, what's this experience look like? I heard Adam talking about tapping the button. So you'll see up on the screen here, we opened a return to service app, and we're presented with a reset button. So we could tap that reset button, and you can actually configure a timer. By default, it's set for 5 seconds. So if somebody would open up the application and they would go ahead and select the reset button, they do have 5 seconds to cancel that process. Once the device wipes, it'll go ahead and skip those base setup assistant prompts, and then it will connect to the wireless network that you define. One of the neat things with the app is you could define multiple SSIDs in the config profile. So if you're an organization that has multiple networks for redundancy purposes, or you acquire another organization, or you have employees who are working at home, whatever the reason may be, you could have multiple SSIDs in there, and it will connect to the most secure one first, and then if that one's not available, it'll go ahead and choose the other one. So, cool. Aaron, let's talk about all the behind-the-scenes nuts and bolts.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. We'll dive a little into the tech here and then come back up. So we've been talking about this Wi-Fi profile. So how the app works by default is you define a config profile ID in the managed app config, and it uses that through the setup assistant process to get on the staging network so you can move on. By default, that is an unmanaged profile that stays installed on the device pretty much until it's wiped, pretty much forever. In the meantime, most organizations want to have a secure profile on their secure Wi-Fi environment. So if you scope that profile to the device, and once it's installed, and it can be installed during setup assistant, it'll take precedent over the RTS profile. And that secure network will be the one you're on, unless it drops off that network. So we had some feedback early on that customers wanted to remove that unmanaged profile. You don't want to drop back to an unsecure profile.
And so one question that comes up quite often is, well, since you're embedding that wireless network SSID and password in that profile, there's a nifty little feature in iOS where you could view the security key. But since it's a managed profile, your users won't be able to go ahead and view that information. So that's a very frequently asked question, and I just wanted to make that note.
Cool. We have an option to remove the staging profile through Manage App Config. It's a built-in key that mobile configs have had for a while. It's removal of profiles. So we have a key in the RTS app, Wi-Fi removal seconds. So you define the number of seconds before or until the unmanaged profile is removed. We have some organizations implementing this and successfully. There's some caveats. You gotta watch when you use this. You really have to make sure that your secure profile is enough time to install before you pull the unmanaged one off, because you'll be off the network, and that's probably the worst thing you want to happen. But this tech is pretty solid. It's working. Check it out if you haven't. We talked about this last year, but I think more organizations should use it. That was a little recap. Now, what's new? Last year, we reported that we had about 110,000 uses of the app since the introduction, which was pretty cool. Since then, we've had over 1 million uses of the app. So that's a great intake of usage. A lot of that is driven by the version of iOS. It's driven by that too. But the uptake in the usage is pretty cool to see. We've added a couple features that we want to talk about. One of them is we added the ability to have an in-app passcode. So in order to access that red button that we saw earlier, you enter a passcode. There's a lot of usage for that, and I'm probably can speak to a couple.
Yeah, so just going back to like my former life in higher education and healthcare, I have a number of customers, specifically in higher education and healthcare, that are like, hey, we want this app to live on every single device for troubleshooting purposes. That way, if somebody is doing rounding or they're visiting a site and they want to perform an RTS, they don't even have to sign in to Jamf to go ahead and initiate that or scope the app down or anything like that. So the feature requests came in from a number of customers, and we'd love to get those feature requests from you guys. So we'll talk a little bit about how you could communicate that information to us in a bit. But the in-app passcode, you could define a custom passcode. It's all done through app config, and then you could provide that in-app passcode to your IT support team. So like in my particular use case with a lot of my customers, they want the RTS app to live on their devices, maybe in like a system folder that's kind of hidden, but they don't want somebody to open up the app and accidentally wipe their device. So it's there for troubleshooting purposes. If somebody from IT or maybe, I'll just use as an example, maybe Aaron just doesn't want to work with me anymore, and Aaron's like, hey, peace out, I'm leaving. I get that device back, and I'm a manager. I have access to that passcode to open up the app and RTS it. I don't have to put in an IT ticket to get that device refreshed. So it's saving me time, it's saving IT time, it's saving valuable money in the long run.
Cool, thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, another option we support is, it's kind of niche, but supporting cellular only or Ethernet only connections. Previously, we required the Wi-Fi profile. Those are important for RTS, even if you have like cellular, you skip all the screens too, even though you don't need the Wi-Fi connection screen.
Yeah. Yeah, and the cellular one is pretty neat. So I work with a large enterprise customer who is deploying cellular iPads out in the field, and those employees are going to an airport and they use the iPad for their shift. At the end of the shift, they wanted the capability to return to service a device. However, they were on a cellular only device. So that's a really, really nice added new feature in here. And we have a lot more to talk about too.
Even though that's cool, we have some other things to talk about that are really exciting. Apple announced some really cool tech at this year's Dub called app preservation, and it's implemented, one version of app preservation is implemented for return to service workflows. So app preservation, the big benefit of that is, at the end of the day, the apps are installed from the device instead of over the network from some server, caching server, or that app store, wherever. It's a great benefit on lessening the load on the network and really speeding up the time it takes for the device to get ready. So it's recently announced, it's supported on iOS, iPadOS, and visionOS 26. We put a feedback in for TV, so if you guys want tvOS, submit feedback to Apple on that. And then with regards to Jamf, we need to be at Pro 1120, which has been out for a little bit.
And then how do you enable that in Jamf Pro?
We'll get to that.
Okay, cool.
Actually, it's right here.
One other really cool thing with this is like a really neat use case specifically. So we have hundreds of Apple devices here that are being used for JNUC, and they're being used throughout this large conference center. And anybody who's ever been to a conference center knows that the networks are just wonderful. So if you have a big 8 gig app like Diablo or something like that, but even if you have just a smaller app and that app data can be preserved on the iPad, it saves a lot of bandwidth, a lot of frustrations, especially on a network that's maybe being throttled. So,
right. So enable it to work. Yeah, if you can go back one. Back.
Oh, sorry.
So it's kind of like two phases to get app preservation to get set up and working. The first time a device goes through a pre-stage, and the pre-stage needs to be enabled for return to service and app preservation. There's two check marks. First time the device goes through that pre-stage, two things happen. Pro will escrow the bootstrap token on the device into Jamf Pro, and it will also set up the device to be ready for app preservation, basically getting it ready to do snapshots. So that's the first stage. So you enroll a device, it sets it up. And then any sequential wipes and going through enrollment through that pre-stage will result in app preservation flow. Here's a high-level chart of it, very high level. So you push red button, it does a reset, it comes through Setup Assistant. During Setup Assistant, it's going to check the snapshot for any managed apps that were preserved on the device. It'll iterate through those apps and see if any of them are currently scoped to the device. If they're currently scoped to the device and in the snapshot, they're installed from the snapshot. Really quick, ideal world, really cool. If there are additional managed apps that were scoped and they're not in snapshot, they'll be installed the way that they are today, that have been forever. The really amazing thing is if all the managed apps that are scoped to the device and they're in the snapshot, it's around 6 minutes, you're on the springboard, you're back to the home screen. That's pretty consistent, regardless of the number of apps or the size of the apps.
Yeah.
And Adam created a great video to show this.
Yeah, so let's see app preservation in action on an iPad running iOS 26. Notice that we have a very large application, Diablo, so it's already installed. And when we go ahead and launch the return to service app, and we're gonna tap reset, The iPad will automatically wipe, and you'll see it pulsing down, counting down, and we could customize some of that stuff too. But it's going to go ahead and perform that device wipe. That's what that green success message means, that the API call was successful and we're good to go. So device wipes, I forwarded through the Apple stuff right now because we didn't want to stare at a black screen for 3 minutes. But you'll see it's going to automatically connect to my JNUC 2025 network. It's going to go ahead and activate the iPad. And then no remote management screen pops up. We're just going to land on the home screen here in just a moment. And I'm not like fast forwarding through anything. I recorded this in my home office on my home internet. So this is essentially what it looks like. So like I mentioned, actually like a good friend of ours, Adam Mahmoud, mentioned, go just grab a cup of coffee and walk away and come back. But you'll see here, Diablo, the app's been preserved. So that's 8 gigs that we didn't have to re-download. That's saving us significant time while reducing network strain as well as bandwidth consumption. So any Diablo fans in here? Awesome.
Yeah, I tried that flow in my home network. Without app preservation, it was around 12 minutes. It was double compared to 6 minutes. So.
Yeah. Cool. Anybody in here using Apple TVs in their environment? Got a lot of hands. Cool. So happy to announce that return to service now is supported on tvOS. So requires tvOS 18 or higher, as well as Jamf Pro 11.13 or higher. If you're not running Jamf Pro 11.13 or higher, please visit your Jamf Customer Success Manager in the Expo Hall, and let's get that straightened out. So you should probably be running something current. Use cases though, hotels, Airbnbs, short-term rentals, hospital stays, trade shows and events. That's really where this use case came out of. And we'll see it in action here. So let's explore what that experience looks like on tvOS. So you'll see here, we're going to go ahead and open up the Return to Service app. We just select Reset. And then part of tvOS is we have to hit Reset one more time. We get the green reset message there. It'll go through resetting the device. And then once that device is reset, it's going to go ahead and automatically configure. Might take just a moment here. Surprisingly, on tvOS, we were able to record some of the Apple stuff with the capture card. Cool. We're at the hello screen. We're going to go ahead and touch the center button on our remote.
So I mentioned earlier that tvOS wasn't supported. That was specifically for app preservation. Just want to clarify that.
Good call out.
Yeah. Had to kill some time here.
Yeah.
Do you want to add to this one?
I think that might be the end of the video. I apologize, but it should take us to the home screen. But yeah, I don't know.
We forwarded.
Yeah.
It does get to the home screen. Yeah. But in reality, seriously, it takes a little longer than an iPad.
Yeah.
I had an older Apple TV, but
it takes about 5 minutes or so. But yeah, we have a number of organizations that are using it. Specifically, hospitality is a big one. Some of our SMB customers that have short-term rentals, hospitals that have patient bedside deployments with tvOSs, and then a lot of people like you who are in this room who are at trade shows and trade show booths. It's really nice at the end of the trade show to just use the Return to Service app to get that device wiped and back to where it needs to be. So show of hands, anybody in here have a Vision Pro or have somebody in their environment with Vision Pros? Yeah, we got a lot of hands here. And that number seems to be significantly growing as spatial computing is growing. So not only does Jamf support visionOS, but the Return to Service app supports visionOS as well. So if you've ever gone through the process of resetting a Vision Pro, It's traditionally been very tedious and time consuming. We tried to simplify that process as much as we can with the Return to Service app and support for visionOS. So this was introduced in Jamf Pro 10.50, and you can very, very quickly refresh your Vision Pro if you have like a Vision Pro that's maybe being used, as an example, one of my customers, they're a dental clinic, and they use a Vision Pro in that dental clinic. I also have a big box store that's using Vision Pros for designs of cabinets, and they have people putting on the Vision Pro and they're using that Vision Pro to design their kitchen. So niche use cases like that where we have rotating users. One thing to keep in mind is that eye and hand calibration during the setup assistant, it's unavoidable. I mean, that's a requirement of visionOS. So you do have to go through the eye calibration as well as the taps to get your hands calibrated. But it's a really neat experience. I really like it because I have a Vision Pro that I bring to trade shows like JNUC. And it's really nice to be able to do that in one tap versus tapping settings and going to general and do I want to sign out of my iCloud account and all that jazz. So it's pretty cool. I see that use case growing significantly as spatial computing becomes more and more popular. But I'm sure the room here can see this app evolved from this thing 2 years ago that was just developed to help, refresh iPads and iPhones, and now we're doing everything. And we'll talk about the future and what you guys want here in a little bit. But I'm going to pass it over to Aaron, and we're going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting, which is also new.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that we just added recently to help set up the app, get it working, and help with troubleshooting specifically. So we have a info button that was added to the app and has tabs now. One of them is troubleshooting, where it can give you a pretty quick status if the app's going to work if you push the button. It's basically doing 2 or 3 API calls, depending if you're doing app preservation. And you can look on the top. If you have 3 greens, there's a good chance you're going to get a success. If you have a red at all, there's going to be a failure. So you can kind of narrow down what's going on. This was primarily added because of app preservation. It's a new thing. And there's certain requirements, and we try to help present if the app isn't ready for app preservation. Probably the 2 reasons it wouldn't be is the OS version is not 26, or the bootstrap token has not been escrowed yet. We've also added logging into the app. The app's always logged, but now it's presented in a graphical way. Hopefully this will help troubleshooting also. If you need to send the log to, we can do it through a share sheet type of process.
How does one access the in-app troubleshooting?
Oh, that would be that info button on the front.
Cool.
In the
upper right-hand corner?
Upper right-hand corner.
Awesome. Just calling out the audio-visual crew. It looks like we lost our keynote. If you wouldn't mind addressing that, we'd appreciate it.
We'll go to what's next.
Thank you for that. Cool. All right, some resources that are available to you. So the Return to Service app is available publicly on the App Store. You could find it at jamf.it/RTS app. You could also find it in Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. If you download the Return to Service app on your device and it is not managed by Jamf Pro, you won't be able to do anything with it. Just a heads up, it does need a managed app config. We have a blog post, jamf.it/RTS app blog. A really nice blog post highlighting some of the content that we spoke about today and some other scenarios. And then the admin guide I'm being completely honest here, we did a really fantastic job at writing the admin guide for this. If you follow that admin guide, you could have this set up and working in your environment in 15 minutes. It's that quick. It's literally a managed app config, a config profile, and an API client and ID, and the app itself. If you scan the QR code there, you'll get more information, but that's a good one to bookmark is jamf.it/RTS app-guide. We update that pretty often, especially when we add new features and enhancements, the new features and enhancements are essentially just app config keys. So that's a really, really good thing to have bookmarked. So you may be wondering, like, what is next with the return to service app? There's lots of possibilities, and we need you to help drive these ideas. I mean, could there be return to service for macOS? Show of hands, who would like that? All right. Now, for everybody who has their hands up in the air, I need you to submit an Apple feedback. That would be wonderful if you could go into Appleseed for IT. And for those of you who are watching this virtually or on YouTube, please submit that feedback. I would really love to be up here next year announcing that we have something like that for Mac. I think that would
Yeah, that would be good.
really
I have
help.
a question, though.
What's that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How I understand when we do RTS, it comes back with the current language, or the language was before the wipe. Is there a way of like changing the language so when it comes back from RTS, that it's on that new language?
Yeah, good question. So there used to be. So we had a key that it would retain the language. So as an example, if Aaron picked Japanese, to not retain the language.
As a user.
Yeah. Because as an example, if Aaron picks Japanese and he RTSs it, it's going to retain that Japanese language. So we had an option in there, a key, and what it did was when you open up the RTS app, since that's something that's familiar, even if the iPad or iPhone would be in Japanese, you would know to open up the RTS app, and we had a change language button at the bottom that opened up a deep link and took you to the language selection in system settings. Something happened with that?
I think ideally if we could use the MDM spec and specify the language.
Yeah.
Well, this was a setup question,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
If you think that's needed, please provide feedback to Apple.
I think it would be really cool to have that added in the MDM spec for language. So just like some things to think about as you're here at the conference, maybe if you come to the lounge tomorrow, or for those of you watching virtually, return to service would not have happened if it wasn't for Jamf users and Apple admins like yourselves submitting that feedback. So submit that feedback. I think it'd be really cool to have RTS for Mac. I had to reset a Mac earlier, and it was not a fun experience having to go through activation and all that fun stuff. So I would love to see that. I think there's some other cool stuff that could come out with some other Apple tech. We'll see what happens at WWDC 2026. But yeah, send your ideas via Apple feedback, as well as Jamf feature requests. But I'd say for some of the MDM stuff, Apple feedback is going to be the best.
Yeah, what's next? We don't know what's next. We've implemented all their feature requests.
Yeah.
So it's not just Apple feedback or Jamf Pro feedback. It could be app-specific feedback.
Yeah.
Like that passcode, in-app passcode features added. That was based on feedback.
Is everybody in here familiar with how to submit a Jamf feature request via AHA? Okay, I got a lot of heads nodding. Cool. So AHA is the platform that we at Jamf use for feature requests. You could add comments in there to a feature request. You could upvote feature requests. And the great thing is it sends notifications to the PMs at Jamf, and people like Aaron and myself get notified. So if you have an idea, submit a feature request. The worst thing we could say is no, but everything that we discussed here today, the in-app troubleshooting, the passcode requirement, tvOS support, that all came from feedback requests that we received. So I'd love for next year to be able to call out some customers for some new feature requests. So cool. Again, if you want to dive deeper into return to service, stop by the lounge tomorrow or Thursday to chat with Aaron and myself, scan the QR code, to register. You could also visit us at the industry booth in the expo hall, or you could book a brain date in the Brain Date Lounge for a more focused conversation. Thank you very much. We are going to open it up for Q&A. So we got Jordan in the back with a mic. If you could kindly raise your hand, and we'll have Jordan throw the mic around.
With the app preservation key, and you guys were mentioning that that will show up as a red icon in the troubleshooting tab if your device, say, isn't on 26 and it would potentially be a failure. Will the command go through and the apps will just download from network instead of being cached on the device if the device isn't updated to 26? Or will the command just not go through?
Oh, that's an excellent question. We thought about that a lot.
Okay.
Ended up, we're going to let the command go through, and it'll just be like legacy RTS. We want it to go through.
Yeah.
Right? It's just you won't, the apps will be installed the legacy way. That's the end of the world. That's how we have it now. So, yeah. If it's not at the OS level, and if you don't have the bootstrap token, it'll still succeed. And that's kind of why we added the troubleshooting too. It's like, why isn't it working? Well, it's not at the right OS level or whatever.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Question, is there a fallback method for network connectivity? Like, let's say I don't have cellular, I don't have Ethernet, and the user is at home, so they're out of range of my enrollment Wi-Fi network. Can they select their home SSID, and then it will still go through?
Yes.
Apple did a great job with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, like you can have multiple SSIDs specified in that config profile. But yes, in the event any of those SSIDs are unable to be connected to, the user will have the option to choose and select another network to connect to.
And the cool thing, even in that situation, it skips the region and the language and the accessibility. It still gets some gain from it. So.
Hi, weird question. Our organization requires that we have to keep a good track of who holds onto a device at a given moment, and it can be pretty fast-paced. Is there any potential where it could be integrated with asset management, where we could change states just to say, hey, we're expecting this device back after we see a return to service kickoff?
I'd say the current return to service flow is by design. Apple designed the return to service framework to be touchless, essentially, from the time that it's initiated. I do understand that in some environments, like it would be really helpful to maybe just have one pane pop up for a user to go ahead and authenticate, which I think is maybe what you're looking for. As of today, that's not something that's supported, but that sounds like a good Apple feedback request. Great questions so far.
Awesome.
Looks like we got one in the back here.
If the apps are held on the device when the return to service is initiated and then it rebuilds it, are the licenses for those apps still in place? Or do you have to sign in again?
So if you're using a managed app, so if you have the assigned content in volume box selected in Jamf Pro, it'll just go ahead and retain, when the device gets wiped, it'll make that license available, and then it'll go ahead and grab another available license. So, great question, thank you.
Hi, thank you. Just out of curiosity, I haven't seen the list of the feature requests, but is it possible to do like a scheduled return to service? Like, is that something that we can automate? Like, if use case, like, if when a patient will be going out, instead of like manually doing it, there's a trigger or like you can schedule that return to service automatically.
Are you looking for like a timed return to service? Okay, yeah, great question. So part of our Jamf for Mac and Jamf for mobile offerings is something new called Jamf routines. So with Jamf routines, you can actually schedule a return to service. So I have a lot of healthcare organizations that they're, every shift change. So let's say shift change is at 11. Every shift change at 11:02, it's going to perform a return to service. You could even say, I only want it to happen on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday or something like that. So you can automate return to service on a schedule with Jamf routines.
Yeah.
It's great question. Thank you.
It's a great one. Yeah, it would be probably based off smart groups. So just, I don't know how many devices you have, but segment those out. Because you do an RTS on a device, and it comes back, there's a lot of commands that are created potentially. A lot of install profiles, a lot of install apps. So be careful before you do like a massive amount at the same time. Test that in your sandbox first.
We've got one question there in the middle. Looks like we got 4 minutes left.
Does your Wi-Fi profile setup support enterprise networks, which includes certificates, root certificates that you may have to connect?
I'll let you tackle that one.
What's the question?
Enterprise network certs, SCEP, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work unless your full chain is in the public. So usually you say like, however you onboard your devices when you get them is the network that's preferred for RTS. It's just, chances are it's not going to work because there'll be something behind the firewall. It needs to be on the open internet. Yeah, it's a very common question. We had it last year.
Yeah.
A lot. We have it in the guide. We even say it's not supported. But if you open up a network that you can go through the staging process and you can drop the staging profile like we were showing in the earlier slide, then you can install your enterprise grade network. Yeah.
Cool. Looks like we got time for one last question.
Yeah, how does this, and does it interact at all with enrollment customization? If I have an enrollment customization, does it just skip over it, or?
Yeah, great question, and one that's asked quite often. So by design, this was meant to be a completely touchless experience, so enrollment customizations are not supported. Awesome.
We have a little time.
Yeah, we got 2 minutes left. We got time for one last question. Any last questions? Thank you so much for attending this session. Thank you so much for driving us to 1 million uses of return to service. Be sure to check us out in the lounge tomorrow and Thursday. You could geek out with Aaron and I. We're both on LinkedIn. We're on the Mac Admin Slack, so we'll be here if anybody in the room has any other questions. So thank you.